Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say, as always, thank you for tuning in to the channel. In today's video, I thought it would be fun to revisit another NFL mock draft, seeing as we are well into the new league year at this point, and we've seen a lot of moves take place over the last week and a half or so. So, a lot has changed around the NFL, and that will be expressed throughout this mock draft. As you can see, I have every team selected. We're doing one round, and I have a free-for-all trading set up just to have some fun with it. So, let's enter the draft room. Now, nothing is going to change about my first two picks in this draft, so we're going to hit start here. And right away, Caleb Williams is going to go to the Chicago Bears. And I think this is a pick that has been made since December of last year, or even, I think, November, when the Bears secured the first overall pick from the Panthers. I think there is no doubt whatsoever, especially now that Justin Fields has been traded, and even before that, that this pick was going to be Caleb Williams. And it's really interesting because there's a subset of Bears fans who were, super into the ride or die on Justin Fields. And part of me understands that, right? Because Justin Fields is by far and away the most talented player that the Chicago Bears have ever had as a quarterback, right? And I don't know if that says more about the Chicago Bears or Justin Fields, but the fact of the matter is, and I believe I mentioned this before, that you don't need Caleb Williams to come in and be a world beater right away. You don't need him to be a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes or even a Kirk Cousins. You just need him to be better than Justin Fields, and I think he is that right away when you start him in that offense. I think he is better than Justin Fields. I think a lot of people are better than Justin Fields, and that's why nobody traded for him. So, I apologize to any Bears fans out there that may have been on the Justin Fields bandwagon, but it was just never meant to be. My second pick of this mock draft is going to be Drake May, in fact, to the Washington Commanders. Now, I can't actually remember if that was true in my last mock draft, if it was Williams and May or Williams and Daniels, but since that mock draft, I have kind of lessened on my opinion of Jayden Daniels. And don't get me wrong, I still thought that Jayden Daniels was clearly behind Drake May and Caleb Williams. And that, that has not changed at all, really, since that mock draft. But what has changed is that I think Jayden Daniels might not even be QB3 anymore. And that might be sacrilege to say that. I might get some comments that are very opinionated against that idea. And I'm fine with that, because there's some glaring issues with Jayden Daniels, especially as a passer, that are sort of screaming at me that this is not a guy that you draft in the top 3 with an absolutely depleted roster like you have with Washington and New England. This is a guy that needs to develop and probably needs to go to the right situation as well to really make use of his athleticism, of the talent that he has. But if you're going to throw him into an offense with nothing, we might be looking at a disaster. Right? And this isn't me trying to discredit Jayden Daniels, because I think he could with enough time, be a phenomenal NFL quarterback. It's just, when you look at a guy who struggles against the middle of the field as much as Jayden Daniels does, I think you need to start asking some questions. And I've seen a lot of rumors. I've seen a lot of reports that are saying that Washington's guy is Jayden Daniels, and frankly, I don't buy that much at all. And I think that leads me right into the New England Patriots at number 3. And this is where it's going to get a little bit weird, okay? Now, in my last draft, I had the Bears coming up from 9 into number 3 to get Marvin Harrison Jr. And as entertaining as I think that would be, they recently just went and got Keenan Allen. Okay, so Keenan Allen, wide receiver for the Chargers for a very long time. Very, very good player, very underrated player. He also just had the best season of his career. Apologies. He also just had the best season of his career at age 30 or 31 or whatever he is. So I don't think that need for wide receiver is as pressing as it was a month ago. I still think it would be really cool if Ryan Poles just said, hey, you know what? This is a new era for the Bears. You know, we're gonna go out and we're gonna adapt to the modern NFL. You know, we got our quarterback, we got our receiver, this, that, the other thing. I don't think that's happening as much. The Patriots could use wide receiver as well. They probably have second or third worst. They probably have the second or third worst wide receiver room in the entire NFL. But that's true for a lot of their positions. But again, when you have a roster like New England's that is just so depleted at so many positions, does it really make sense to pick a super loaded talent super high in the draft, or do you switch gears, acquire capital, build a better base to work off of, and then roll the dice on a quarterback either later this year or with something next year? So I think the odds of the Patriots trading down are a lot higher than people think, especially in this scenario of Drake May going second. Because I think a lot of people have had this idea that Jayden Daniels is for sure Washington's guy, and I'm not really sure I believe that. So if Drake May goes second, is New England going to look at a J.J. McCarthy or a Jayden Daniels and be like, this is a huge investment, this is a serious project that we have to take on if we want to see success from the quarterback position? Or do they go, hey, we brought in Jacoby Brissett, who's familiar with the organization, who's been in a lot of rebuilds as a quarterback, as a backup, even as a starter in Indianapolis for a little bit, where it's just like, hey, let's hand him the keys, explain to him, yes, this is a rebuild, we're not expecting to be any good, but you're Jacoby Brissett, you don't make a lot of mistakes, you can be just fine enough to, hold the ship together, especially because, this is the first time in my lifetime, okay? In my lifetime, which has been relatively brief, all things considered, but in my lifetime, this is the first time the man in charge in New England is not Bill Belichick making personnel decisions for this team. So I think New England could truly be a wild card in this upcoming draft. And for that reason, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, I understand, but for that reason, I think the Patriots are trading out, and what I'm about to do is about to cause possibly a civil war. But we'll talk about that in just a second. So what I'm going to do here again, just like my previous mock draft, I am not going to do full trade packages. I'm just going to do the picks that are relevant to the mock draft. So this trade is not realistic at all. It's just what needs to be done to make the picks look right at the end. So the Minnesota Vikings are going to come up to number 3 overall. Okay, so the Minnesota Vikings are now at 3. And I think this has been in the works for a while behind the scenes. I don't know if it's going to be executed, hours from now or on draft day. I would assume if they're going to move up to 3, it will be a pre-draft trade because, believe it or not, it is cheaper to trade up pre-draft than it is on draft day. So, they would already be paying multiple premiums to move to this spot, and then the added premium of moving up on draft day, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they talked to New England at the Combine. The Minnesota Vikings and the New England Patriots had extensive talks, from what I understand. Of course, it is smokescreen season and all that, but I would not be shocked to see the Minnesota Vikings come up to number 3. And the reason I think that is because I don't think you go in and get another first-round pick to move up to number 5 with the LA Chargers. I don't think you do that, especially when it costs you 2 seconds this year and next year to do that. I don't see the precedent for getting a second first-round pick this year to move up to number 5. Like the gap of value, and of course, when we talk about these value charts that teams use to determine what they're willing to pay for draft trades, we can't just go off of some random chart that we find. We can't just go off of the Jimmy Johnson chart that's been outdated for the last 20 years, or whatever chart is popular for people to use to justify their team winning a trade. We can't do that because every NFL team has their own chart. Every NFL team has their own value associated in trade talks. That's why it takes 2 to tango, but when we see the value from pick 3 and pick 5, the drop-off is a lot more drastic than you might think. So I don't think you go and get that second first-round pick to move up to number 3. Or to move up to number 5, sorry. I think that is a very aggressive move from the Minnesota Vikings front office that says, hey, we're going up to 3 and we're fine with whoever's there, right? So I personally believe that this will happen eventually, the Minnesota Vikings going up to 3, and I think it makes sense for the Patriots too, because now the Patriots have 2 first-round picks, they pick up some late-round picks as well, they have a lot of picks then to, move up in the draft if they feel like it. If they're really tempted, they could move back up to number 5. I highly doubt they will. I think they're fine moving back. Maybe they see some value later. All of that stuff. But again, I think this makes sense for both sides. And what might hurt, what might hurt if any Vikings fans are watching, is that they're going to take J.J. McCarthy at number 3. And again, I've spent a lot of time talking about this number 3 pick, but I think the number 3 pick is really where the draft actually begins, is what the Vikings do. I think the Vikings have a lot of control over the way that this draft plays out. And I think J.J. McCarthy genuinely is going to go a lot higher than people think. They might even... J.J. McCarthy might even go at 2. But I am going to stand by this pick. I know Vikings fans are absolutely deranged and will probably be all over the comments about this, but I promise you, J.J. McCarthy in that offense is going to be a star. But anyway, let's now move things along a little bit to what won't take nearly as much time. The Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr., they need wide receiver. They honestly don't need a lot else because they have the most picks in this draft. They have something like 12, 13 picks. So I think it also could be Malik Neighbors at number 4, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the genuine consensus to be the 4th player off the board. And then it gets a little bit more interesting again at number 5, because this could also be a spot where a team sees, hey, Jaden Daniels has fallen. Maybe there's a team out there that looks at this and says, hey, we'd like to take that project on, we can develop him, and they could, they could move to number 5. It could even be the Giants that does that. The Giants do need a quarterback. I don't think they're going for quarterback this year myself, but could this be a spot where a team like the Raiders or the Denver Broncos or the Saints come up and say, that's where we want to go get our quarterback because Jaden Daniels is there? It could. It truly, truly could. It could even be somebody like the Seattle Seahawks. Like, to be completely honest, it could be the Seahawks. They just traded for Sam Howell, so maybe not as much as before. And I'm not sure that the Chargers would like to do an in-division trade with the Raiders. I'm not entirely sure they would do an in-division trade with the Denver Broncos either. So let's take a grand old look at what else might be here. As we scroll down the list, it seems less and less likely that these teams would need a quarterback. It could be the Saints. Like, as I'm looking at it, it could be the Saints that would be the one to jump that gun to 5 and make a move for a quarterback. But I'm not going to have that happen, so I am going to select Malik Neighbors to the Chargers. And then this gets a little bit interesting because, again, the Giants do need something better than Daniel Jones. And as I've said, I think Jaden Daniels does need time to develop. And, I think there's this weird obsession lately in NFL media with the idea of sitting a rookie. And I think that only works if for one of two options. So option A is you draft a rookie that is so unbelievably raw with his talent, like an Anthony Richardson, right? That what you need to develop is just some consistency, just get him up to speed to the NFL level, and not in a Jaden Daniels way where it's like, yeah, there's some serious question marks that we need to iron out before this guy can get going. So it's like, if you need like a half season to start to sit a guy, I can understand that. If we're talking like a full-on multi-year developmental project like Jordan Love, and you don't have a superstar quarterback already, because you have to remember, right, Jordan Love sat for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, which is not something a lot of teams have the fortune to do. So when you have a guy that can sit behind somebody like Aaron Rodgers, of course they're going to have a much better development than a guy that has to sit behind, a Jaden Daniels. Or not a Jaden, Daniel Jones, sorry. So it's like, in this case, it feels a little bit odd to waste that rookie contract, especially if it's a guy you end up bailing on, right? Because we saw it with the 49ers where they drafted Trey Lance. They moved mountains to go get Trey Lance, and then he sat behind Jimmy G, and then it turned out he wasn't even better than Sam Darnold, and they moved off him for a 4th-round pick. So I think there is some inherent risk to this new idea of just sitting your rookie, And it happened with Patrick Mahomes, too, where Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. And Alex Smith was no slouch, okay? He wasn't Aaron Rodgers, but Alex Smith was a perfectly usable starting quarterback that you look at Mahomes and it's like, yeah, he's a little bit raw right now. We need to, get some discipline, get some refinement to his game, and that's a perfect scenario. He sat for a year behind Alex Smith. He came back, and then he knew how to use those talents at an NFL level, and now he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. And again, that is another scenario that just is not going to happen every day with this sitting the rookie idea. And I say all of that to say, I don't know that even in this position, the New York Giants would select Jayden Daniels. So I'm going to go and be a little bit crazy, and I'm going to say that they go for Rome Odunze, okay, or Odunze. And the reason I say this is because I think a much better development path for quarterbacks in the NFL has recently been to get them a proper number one wide receiver. We saw it with Jalen Hurts. They went and got A.J. Brown. We saw it with Josh Allen. They went and got Stephon Diggs. We saw it just this past season with Justin Fields when the Chicago Bears went and got DJ Moore. And I have my own reservations about DJ Moore and, is he truly a wide receiver one to the same degree of like a Stephon Diggs or an A.J. Brown? And, that's an entirely different argument in and of itself. But I think this is the New York Giants going and saying, hey, look, we spent a lot of money on Daniel Jones. We haven't really done anything, right? The best wide receiver in New York for the past couple seasons has been Darius Slayton, and he hasn't even produced 1,000 yards. So I think they could look at that and they could say, let's get a number one wide receiver. Let's see what we really have, and then we'll worry about the future, right? So I may be, I may get some comments that are very colorfully worded about that, but I think Jayden Daniels, if anybody is going to fall, it's going to be him. So we'll see where that leads him, and maybe we might have some surprises in this mock draft, because again, I don't plan these out. I just kind of do them in the moment and try to explain to you my thinking, because I think it's more authentic that way. I think it's more fun that way. So these next couple of picks will just breeze by, though. I promise you. Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. They could pick anybody, right? Like, they could pick Olu Fashanu, Talis Fuaga, could even be J.C. Latham. It's going to be offensive tackle no matter what. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to be offensive tackle. And it's probably going to be Joe Alt, just because Joe Alt is sort of that lead man right now, but there are so many tackles in this class that I really don't think they could go wrong if they go a different route for like a Talis Fuaga or Olu Fashanu. So I'm not too worried about the Tennessee Titans. It's just a matter of getting the name right, not the position. And the Atlanta Falcons, I think, if Jayden Daniels does fall to here, fall to 8, I honestly wouldn't be entirely shocked if they do roll the dice and say, you know what, we brought in Kirk Cousins, yes. He's coming off of a major injury. We gave him a ton of money. We need to shore up our future and fast if we're going to do this. And I think Kirk Cousins is a great man for a young quarterback to learn from, right? Because Kirk Cousins, for all of his faults as a quarterback, is ridiculously efficient, accurate, and is not prone to many mistakes, okay? So if you can take those aspects of Kirk Cousins' game and you can give them to a young quarterback who's more athletic and more talented, and you can teach them those aspects of, hey, look, This is sort of the thought process. This is how you limit this. This is, you win more by increasing your margin for error, right? So, if you have a very small margin of error and you fuck up, you're going to lose. But if you can, build leads, maintain leads, that sort of thing, be accurate, be efficient, you can win a lot of games that way. And if you can teach that to a guy like Jayden Daniels, who also has the plus side of being able to make whatever happen with his legs, I think there is some serious interest if Jayden Daniels is here at 8 for the Atlanta Falcons. However, do I think it's enough to make them draft him? Let's pause for a moment and let's think this over. Yes, I've decided, in fact, if Jayden Daniels falls to number 8, he will be an Atlanta Falcon, sit behind Kirk Cousins. And granted, they did give him 2 years of fully guaranteed money, and they're drafting him at 8, which, again, is more guaranteed money at the quarterback position. But with the way the Kirk Cousins contract is constructed, it's a 2-year out, right? They can get out after 2 years. He signed for 4. That doesn't matter. They can get out after 2. He'll be 38, 39 years old. Jayden Daniels will have 2 years to sit behind Kirk Cousins, which is a lot better than having to sit behind Daniel Jones for a year with a team that is, frankly, far less talented on both sides of the ball than the Atlanta Falcons. So I think there is some serious motivation there for Jayden Daniels if he falls to number 8. And now we have the Chicago Bears at number 9. Now, the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, obviously. Number 9 has been sort of up in the air, right? Because there's a lot of different ways that this could go. I've seen a lot of Bears fans that have been clamoring for Rome Odunze. And I think, as much as I think that's a great fit, I really don't think the Bears are going to go wide receiver at 9. I think they could do it later in the draft. They don't have a lot of picks this year. And maybe, if they're not sold on Dallas Turner, who I think is incredible, easily the best edge in this draft, I think. I'm no professional scout or anything, but I like Dallas Turner a lot. So I think it could be Dallas Turner, but if they're not sold on that, I could easily see them trading down here. I'm not entirely sold that there would be a team that wants to trade up to number 9 for anyone. I mean, maybe if someone's super into Brock Bowers, maybe they could do it. But I think, as of right now, I think they will just go Dallas Turner, and I think that is already, I think that is an A-plus draft for the Chicago Bears. I think that's an incredible draft. Dallas Turner and Caleb Williams, you're set, right? Your future is pretty much set. The New York Jets. Now, as I was talking about Jayden Daniels earlier with the Atlanta Falcons, I think the scenario is also similar for the Jets, as sort of a team that is kind of sneakily in the maybe they draft a quarterback window, right? If Jayden Daniels is falling down the board, like he is in this, and he doesn't go to the Falcons, I would have gone and sent him to the Jets, because in a similar way, it's like, it's Aaron Rodgers, and granted, there was sort of a schism, as I understand it, between, the front office of Green Bay and Jordan Love, and Aaron didn't want to teach a rookie, and, all kinds of just ridiculous drama that nobody should care about with how that went. But I think even just watching the guy would be hugely, hugely important for a guy like Jayden Daniels to learn from. But seeing as that is not the case, the Jets are now in an interesting situation. Do they take Brock Bowers, who is by far the lead man in the tight end class this year, which is not as good as it was last year? You have Brock Bowers and Jatavian Sanders, and then after that it's like, so it's like, do they go and say, hey, let's just get Aaron more weapons? Do they go, let's get a tackle to protect Aaron? I think it will be tackle. I think in my last mock draft I had them taking Talise Fuaga, and I think I'll do that again just for some consistency. I do like Fuaga to the Jets. And now the Patriots, with the first of their 2 newly acquired draft picks, could go and say, hey, there's a lot of tackles in this class. We would like one too. And they are going to take Olu Fashanu. Now, the Denver Broncos. Last draft, I know I gave them Terrion Arnold. There's some rumors and speculation that they're in on Bo Nix. They like Bo Nix, which that's certainly a choice. Certainly a choice. Bo Nix in the first round is not something that I personally see happening, but teams will pay the premium for quarterback all the time. I'm not too into the idea of Bo Nix in the first round, so I think it will just be Terrion Arnold again. I think that's a very solid choice for Denver. The Las Vegas Raiders, another team that could, maybe be sneaky with quarterback. I've also heard rumors of Bo Nix to the Vegas Raiders. How much do I, put in on those rumors? Not a whole lot. I think they could also go offensive tackle, interior O-line as well. Could be in play there. They could also be another team that's like in a trade down scenario here, and Brock Bowers is, still falling. But who's going to realistically trade up for a tight end, even if it is Brock Bowers? So I think this is, I think they will probably stick and pick here, but do I give them J.C. Latham again, or do I switch gears and give them a corner? Quinyon Mitchell is here. I think I'll switch gears and send a corner to the Las Vegas Raiders. Beef up that defense that already got even beefier in the off season. I think they also signed a tackle as well. I can't remember. Anyways, the New Orleans Saints. Now, I think I mentioned last mock draft as well that I hate the way that the New Orleans Saints have been run. I think Mickey Loomis as a GM needs to go before they are ever successful again. And I think this could honestly be another super wild card spot. They just signed Chase Young to a fully guaranteed contract, which is kind of a whatever signing. They need tackle, obviously. But I think, and I know they have Juwan Johnson, and I like Juwan Johnson, but I think this could be where Brock Bowers ends up in New Orleans. Why do I think that? Let's answer that question. The reason I think that is because I think it'd be very entertaining. And usually, when I do mock drafts, it's more about entertainment and what I think would make the coolest story than it is about realism to a certain degree, right? I want to be a little bit realistic, but at the same time, it's kind of be cool to have Chris Olave and Brock Bowers on the same team, right? That would be kind of cool. And maybe Derek Carr wouldn't suck so much if he had more weapons, Who knows? The Indianapolis Colts could also be a team that Brock Bowers ends up on. I don't even know who their tight end is. I know they have Michael Pittman. What else do they have after that? I don't know. I don't really watch the Colts. They have Anthony Richardson. I know their defense was good for a while. Right now, I think it's kind of in the middling stages. And as it stands right here, there's quite a few edge candidates that they could go for. Nate Wiggins is here. Let's think. I'm trying to think of who their other wide receivers are. I think Alec Pierce is still in Indianapolis. I don't know if he's developed into much. I know they just signed Michael Pittman to a big contract, but I think the way that this looks, I am going to say the Indianapolis Colts we'll select Nate Wiggins. The Seattle Seahawks, I'm going to give them edge. This time it's Jared Verse. Last time it was Laiatu Latu. I'm sticking with that that position at least for the Seattle Seahawks. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it will also be corner. It could be Laiatu Latu. I'm pretty positive it will be defense. It could also be like Jackson Powers Johnson, who is probably the best interior lineman we've seen in a while. He's like the Tyler Linderbaum of this draft. Let me just look down the board here for a minute. Pittsburgh will probably be Jackson Powers Johnson as well. Like, this could all be corner, these three. I think for this mock draft, I will give them Laiatu Latu. Cooper DeJean will end up on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Los Angeles Rams. After Cooper DeJean goes off the board, I think it will be Amarius Mims. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be Jackson Powers Johnson. The Miami Dolphins will be J.C. Latham. Now, I know I had the Green Bay Packers moving up for a tackle. This time I don't think I will do that. I think I see a scenario here where some things fall out, but we'll see. The Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Kool-Aid McKinstry is here, and that has usually been the guy that I give to Philadelphia Eagles. Do I want to change that up? Not particularly. I will give them Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, I know I made a TikTok. Yes, I have a TikTok. I made a TikTok on some random day where I was talking about what I think the Eagles will do, and I had some guy in the comments that came in and was like, there is just no way that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go corner. And it's like, I can understand why you would think that if you look at name alone, because they have Darius Slay and James Bradbury, and I can't remember who their nickel is. It's like Eli Ricks or something. But it's like, if you actually watch the Eagles, they need secondary help desperately. Okay? So I think it's fairly obvious that this will be corner, and if it's not corner, it'll probably be defensive end, or like maybe linebacker as a super oddball shot, but I'm fairly confident the Philadelphia Eagles are going to draft a corner, because James Bradbury was not very good last year, especially at the back half of last year, and Eli Ricks has never been good. They also have Keely Ringo, who is also not very good and has a extensive injury history, so I feel very confident about corner to the Eagles, but we'll see. The New England Patriots, they got Olu Fashanu or Fashanu. I've heard both pronunciations. I don't actually know which one it is. The New England Patriots. Now, at 23, could this be Bo Nix? Could it be Bo Nix? I think there is a small possibility of that. However, as I already explained, I don't like Bo Nix in the first round. I think this could be a very underrated selection. I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. is actually going to fall this far. I think he will go much higher than this. I sort of forgot about him a little bit going through some of those other teams. And, positional value does matter a little bit. So, like, offensive tackle, corner, defensive end, those are arguably more important than wide receiver. But, like, if we're looking at, top 5 most important positions in football, it's like quarterback, tackle, edge, corner, and then wide receiver fits in there somewhere. But I think it could be Brian Thomas Jr. at 23. In this scenario where, of course, New England trades out, a lot of things happen, a lot of things change, I think it could be Brian Thomas Jr. I think that would be very interesting. Now, this is where it gets really fun because, again, we're going to see a tackle, Troy Fautanu, go to the Dallas Cowboys. I think they would have preferred Amarius Mims or J.C. Latham if they fell to that spot, but I don't think they're going to complain about Troy Fautanu in the same way that I think the Green Bay Packers would have maybe even preferred Troy Fautanu or an Amarius Mims. I don't think they're going to complain about Tyler Guyton either. So I think in a lot of the mocks that I've done among my friends and, just for fun, like on TikTok or places like that, I've had both of these teams, both Green Bay and the Dallas Cowboys, going tackle, 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 tackle every single time. So it cannot be understated the importance of that position. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think, could be the team, right? If there is somebody out there that is going to trade back into the first round for that fifth-year option on a guy that they like, whether that be, a Byron Murphy or a Bo Nix, whoever that is, I think this could be the spot that happens. Because I don't really think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have that many needs. I like the team that they've built. I like what they're doing in Tampa Bay. It could also be a guy like Zach Frazier, Graham Burton, something like that. But I think this could be the team that trades out and has somebody else come back up. I don't think it'll be the Texans. I don't think it'll be Jacksonville. I've thought about it being the Carolina Panthers, but they have 2 second-round picks now. Maybe they're okay with that. Could also be like the Browns, right? Like, what does Cleveland have? Where are Cleveland? The Cleveland Browns. I can't even see because it's not going to let me do that trade. But it could be like the Cleveland Browns that move back up. But I think I'm going to stick them here, and I think it's going to be Zach Frazier to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Arizona Cardinals could also be that team that moves out, but they have so many picks already, and I'm going to give them Byron Murphy. I think that makes a lot of sense for their team. I think that would also be an incredible draft for the Arizona Cardinals to get Marvin Harrison Jr. and Byron Murphy. I think that would be very, very good. The Buffalo Bills desperately, I think, need wide receiver help now. They signed Curtis Samuel in free agency. I think a lot of people are higher on that addition than I am. I think Curtis Samuel doesn't really move the needle for me. They also could use cornerback help because they lost Tre'Davious White. Kaiir Elam has not really developed to the degree that I think they want him to. Maybe that changes with an increased role in 2024. But looking at this, there's Chop Robinson, Braylon Trice, who I like a lot. And I like Adisa Isaac as well. I'm a big fan of Jonah Ellis. I really like. I think there's some guys here in this edge class as like a second or third round pick that could be really well suited for the Buffalo Bills. Corner, I think, is harder to acquire like a high upside guy later than it is for edge rusher. Let me take a look at wide receiver. Now, Adonai Mitchell, I'm a Texas Longhorn fan. I like the Texas Longhorns. I love Adonai Mitchell, but I don't know that I love him for the Bills, right? And I will admit that this could just be my bias completely. But I have a spot in mind for Adonai Mitchell, and I'm going to make him go there in every single one of my mock drafts, just because I think it would be the most fun. So I'm going to give the Buffalo Bills Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback. It's weird to say full cornerback instead of just corner, but oh well. The Detroit Lions. Now, I know in a lot of my mock drafts, I give them like a Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette or Roman Wilson. Even Ricky Pearsall, I think, would be really cool. But I think all of that probably comes later. I'm not as high on them taking wide receiver in the first as I used to be. I do think they will take wide receiver in the second, though. Like, fully believe they will take wide receiver in the second, because as much as, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta are absolutely elite, they are ridiculously good players, I think having that, third option, that number 2 receiver, just another place to get the ball to, is hugely important in today's league. Of course, it doesn't really matter much if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You just have Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and you make magic happen. But not everybody has Patrick Mahomes. So I think having that, third option just really makes your offense way more dynamic. So I do think they will go wide receiver in round 2. However, as it currently stands, how do I feel about any of these? Kamari Lassiter, I like. In the first round, not as much. Chop Robinson, Darius Ron. Honestly, I know they just signed Marcus Davenport, but how much do I believe in Marcus Davenport to be healthy enough for a full season and have enough effort for a full season? I don't know. And I think the more I think about it, the more I think this could also be a trade-out spot for the Detroit Lions to move out of the first round, pick up some more picks. That's fun to say. Acquire more draft capital, if you will. I could see that too. And maybe they go for like a Braylon Trice and Xavier Legette. I think that would be an incredible draft for them. Or like a Roman Wilson, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall, Adisa Isaac, Joan Ellis, that kind of thing. But since I can't move second round picks in this, I think I'm going to give them the guy who I think they take in the second round in the first, and I'm going to give them Braylon Trice. It's a bit weird, I know, but it's just, you make do with what you have after all. Now, the Baltimore Ravens is another very interesting team. Johnny Newton is still here. Of course, they did re-sign Justin Madubuike. I've heard both pronunciations. I don't actually know which one it is, but they signed their big-name defensive tackle. Jadeveon Clowney is likely gone. Kyle Van Noy is likely gone. It could be an edge rusher, but again, I think there are a lot of guys with upside in the second or third round. Adisa Isaac, Joan Ellis, Darius Robinson, Chop Robinson, these kind of guys. Do I want to sacrifice my Adonai Mitchell to Kansas City pick for the Baltimore Ravens? It's a bit tempting. I won't lie to you, it's a bit tempting to say Adonai Mitchell on the Ravens would be really fun. I think it would be. I'm not going to do that, because again, I'm saving Adonai Mitchell for the Chiefs, because I just think that would be the most incredible thing ever. And Adonai Mitchell would become the greatest wide receiver in history. No bias whatsoever as a Texas Longhorn fan. But anyway, with all of that said, I think Jordan Morgan to Baltimore also I kind of like that a little bit too. Kamari Lassiter to Baltimore I also like a little bit. This is tough. I won't lie. I'm looking at this and I'm having a tough time really choosing for them. But I think I'm going to give them Keon Coleman. I think that's what I'm going to do. The San Francisco 49ers, who I had take Jackson Powers Johnson, I believe, in my previous mock draft. I think they are going to go center. I just don't know which one of these guys is actually a center. I think Mason McCormick is, but I don't think Mason McCormick goes first round. So I think in this scenario, I think the center will happen later for the Niners. Who do we have? OT. Jordan Morgan, Kingsley Suamataia. I like both of these guys. Jordan Morgan. I don't know if he plays right tackle or not. But I do like it. I like it a lot. That will be my selection. And of course, the final pick, and the pick that means the most to me. And granted, I'm not specifically a Chiefs fan, again. For entertainment value alone, I think Adonai Mitchell on the Chiefs would be just the most ridiculous thing we have ever seen. The AFC would hate it. The NFC would hate it. Casual fans would despise it. I think it would be absolute cinema to see Adonai Mitchell on the Chiefs. So this is my second mock draft, and we will go through the picks very briefly to sign off, as the scroll wheel actually works this time. So let's review. Caleb Williams, number 1 to the Bears. Drake May, number 2 to the Washington Commanders. The Minnesota Vikings move up to 3 with the New England Patriots and take J.J. McCarthy. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. Malik Nabers, number 5 to the Chargers, who I'm very high on. I love Malik Nabers. Rome Odunze, number 6 to the New York Giants. Surprising many people to see Jaden Daniels fall. Joe Alt, number 7 to the Titans. Jaden Daniels, number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons, despite signing Kirk Cousins to a massive deal in free agency. Dallas Turner to the Bears. Talise Fuaga, number 10 to the New York Jets. Olu Fashanu, number 11 to the New England Patriots, having traded down with the Minnesota Vikings. Terrion Arnold, number 12 to the Denver Broncos. Quinyon Mitchell, number 13 to the Raiders. Brock Bowers, number 14 to the Saints. Nate Wiggins at 15 to the Indianapolis Colts. Jared Verse, number 16 to the Seattle Seahawks. Leatu Latu, number 17 to the Jags. Cooper DeJean, number 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Amarius Mims, number 19 to the Los Angeles Rams. Jackson Powers Johnson, number 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. J.C. Latham, number 21 to the Miami Dolphins. Kool-Aid McKinstry, number 22 to the Eagles. Brian Thomas Jr., number 23 to the Patriots. Troy Fautanu, number 24 to the Dallas Cowboys. Tyler Guyton, number 25 to the Green Bay Packers. Zach Frazier to the Buccaneers. Byron Murphy to the Cardinals. Ennis Rackstraw Jr. to the Buffalo Bills. Braylon Trice to the Detroit Lions. Keon Coleman to the Ravens. Jordan Morgan to the Niners. And Adonai Mitchell to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, of course, nobody knows anything about the draft at this point except for maybe Caleb Williams at 1. You are, as always, entitled to your own opinion, and you can let me know where you think I'm wrong in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It truly does help the channel in immeasurable ways. I thank you very much for watching. I will speak with you all again soon, and goodbye for now.